Because you look kind of like that's all.
Come on over here. Come on over here. Okay, come on over here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Orange County World Cup. Hey. Everybody say hi.
Got all kinds of kids out here from all different kinds of schools and different rehab programs, etc. And they did really well. They got out of their comfort zone and really started to grow.
Cool. Anything special today?
Anything special today?
Anything
we had kids that were crying because they did something they thought they could never do.
All right. Hey.
and boil them down to such an extent that these kids could get it.
Yes.
Not just in their heads, but because of the obstacle courses that they set up and the yoga that you were teaching and, the general inspirational talks that I was giving. Yeah. The sum accumulation of getting hit with all of that positive stimulus sent these kids out of there like on cloud nine.
Yeah, well, and you could witness them in the groups transform or just surrender. Some of them, they were totally resistant, and then they're like, maybe some of you Californians know where this Orange County rope course is, but that's the place that we were at. And apparently there's several of them all over California, and I guess they're out there building them to just challenge these kids and give them a sense of who they are in time and space, get them out of a dark space and get them away from their phones and out from in front of computers and get them into their bodies doing crazy. I mean, those ropes courses were high. Yeah, they were absolutely high. They were
that slip line was high. I mean, I didn't do it.
You didn't do the zip line.
And that's the first time in my life where I probably wouldn't have just jumped and climbed all over the stuff. But those things required crampons and harnesses and all sorts of things. So they really made a legitimate situation out of it and created a huge team spirit with hundreds of kids. It was really, really quite awesome. So yeah, we have that guy, and then we got Will Sennett, who's a screenwriter.
A screenwriter, award-winning screenwriter. He's won a couple awards.
He's an award-winning screenwriter,
yep.
And I had the pleasure of actually acting one of his pieces, playing a part in one of the films that he made and that he wrote, and it was a pleasure working with him directly because I had the writer there, and I was actually it's a great luxury as an actor to be able to talk to the writer to sort of get into what their original intent was. Right. And he was a team player, and he was open and patient with me, and he's a guy that a writer is a special person. They do look at the world with a special pair of eyes. They're great observers, and so we'll have.
There's a lot of attention to detail, and he's a comedian.
And I guess he's throwing his hat in the ring as a comedian. I mean, what better way that's a risky thing to do these days. I mean, what is comedy these days? You got to you can't even walk the line anymore.
Well, talk about risks, because it's one thing from my perspective, I'm not a professional in that arena at all, but to take a risk to act is one thing, but then to take a risk to invoke laughter is a high risk in my book. Like, that's a huge risk. Like, I'm going to try this, and you immediately know if you succeeded or not.
Comedy is a science, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a good sensibility of also being where you are, sensing what your audience needs, and the timing is an interesting issue because timing is always a big issue in the performing arts aspects of things, and also as an athlete, timing is critical, but in order to achieve great timing, that individual has to be extremely present, and extremely conscientious and sensitive to the energies around him to achieve this thing called timing, that artists really attribute that to. So it's going to be fun having him in here, and that's that.
That's that. So should we get Dr. Bill?
No, what we're going to do is we're going to actually watch his video.
Okay.
And we're going to watch his video now. We're going to get a sense of one of his programs, one of his love programs, his love child programs, and you guys are going to love it. So go ahead.
Because he looks kind of like that's all.
Come on over here. Come on over here. Okay, come on over here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Orange County Road. Hey, everybody say hi.
Hi. Got all kinds of kids out here from all different kinds of schools and different rehab programs, etc. And they did really well. They got out of their comfort zone and really started to grow.
Cool. Anything special today?
Anything special today?
Anything
we had kids that were crying because they did something they thought they could never do.
Right, all right. Hey. Okay.
How long you been doing this with these kids?
30 years.
Oh my goodness.
So not just this, but we take them up in the mountains for 4 or 5 days. That's when you really get to know a kid.
Cool. And how about getting out of probation and these kids coming back? What's your return on this?
Recidivism rate is very low when we have them long enough in treatment, which is a year. And if you got a lot of negativity going on, you've got to just ward that off and reframe it as positive.
There you go. Now what? See how much slack you got there? There you go. Just like that.
Every elite athlete I know does exactly this.
You nervous?
No.
No? It's kind of fun? You did it before?
No.
Next
No?
go on up.
That's pretty cool. You nervous?
Wait,
A little bit? Have you ever done it before? No? You're going to go for it though, aren't you?
I've worked with the Green Bay Packers. I've worked with the Los Angeles Angels. I've worked with lots of different kinds of teams. They all know this. And if you have someone in your life that spreads lots of negative energy, you may have to remove them from your life.
How you guys doing?
Yeah.
When you clip in and you're removing your crack claws, your partner is making sure that you're moving them right. You do never take off two. You always leave on one, right?
If you have negative friends, they will take you down.
Hey, grab the cable above your head and just move over there. There you go. There you go. Now move your crack claws over. Good. There you go. Okay.
So everybody has a piece to this. So today, when you're going through today, reframe any negative thoughts that you have into positive thoughts. If you say, I can't, you're absolutely right. If you say you can, you're absolutely right. So then you make the choice. You make that choice every single day.
Hey Ari, how was it?
Fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge up there?
The top part, or I was too short to reach the thing.
Where? Which part?
The very top, or the after the tubes.
Ah, gotcha.
Here, you get halfway up here on this rope course and you say, I can't go any further. Guess what? You can't go any further.
Hi, Joshua.
You won't take the next step.
Hi, my name's Joseph. Hi, Joseph. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Climbing.
Of course. Right on. Make sure everybody's ready.
Locking the rope.
Hold the rope. Keep it tight. All right. Go.
So constantly reframing your mindset.
Ready. Don't look down.
Hey,
Careful in the jungle vine. Grab us at the tube. You got this.
If you have negative people in your life, take a really good look at them and see how they're influencing you. So we're working on this stuff every single day, and it's incredibly powerful.
Pull yourself up with the rope.
Use the wire.
Go, Joseph. You got it. You got it.
There you go. Touch it out. Yeah.
You pick a negative peer group, you're going down. You pick a positive peer group, you're going up. Just that simple. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Hey. Oh.
Hey, if you get
Unmuted.
unmuted.
Unmuted. We're unmuted.
We're unmuted. I apologize. I forgot to give the direction to unmute, so we had a little silent movie going on there. But I was animated enough, hopefully, to keep it interesting. So we've got Dr. Bill Beecham in the wings here, and he's an extraordinary teacher. He's an advisor to the NCAA. He's on, he'll correct me if I'm wrong here, on the Olympic board to drug test these athletes to make sure that they're legit. And not only that, he's just not that guy. He's also an educator on high-end concepts and kinesthesiology and all. He's a brilliant guy. I mean, we can't even sit here long enough with this gentleman. But let's get him in here. Let's get him in there.
Woo-hoo.
Let's get him in. Woohoo! There he is. Hey. There he is.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
have a
Yes, sir.
seat
That's the one.
Take your time to get set up there.
We got him. We got the NCAA Olympic advisor in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Dr. Bill, go ahead and pull your mic in front of you.
Yeah, get about 2 inches.
There we go.
2 inches from your face. There you go.
How does that work?
Your sound is perfect.
Terrific.
Nice to have you here.
What a pleasure on a rainy night.
Yeah, we were singing your praises big time, and then like for 5 minutes we forgot to take the mute off. So the audience had a good silent dose of me, which they probably appreciated.
It was a silent movie.
So tell how would you like to introduce yourself to us? Where would you like to go first? Because
good evening, Suzanne.
Good evening.
Good evening, Thomas.
Good evening, sir.
Hi,
how
are you?
I'm Dr. Bill Beecham.
Yes, you are.
And it's really a pleasure to be here because the more people I can get to, the better. And I come from lots of different perspectives. One as a clinical psychologist.
Oh, interesting.
And Oxford trained.
Oxford trained. So what does that mean? You're good at it?
No, I'm excellent at it.
Oxford.
I will get you out of your comfort zone. This is not Ivy League. This is Oxford in England.
Oh,
the UK.
That's original Ivy League.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's the original Oxford League.
Yes.
Wow.
We think Cambridge is a really great #2 school.
Yeah.
Where's the English accent? I guess you dropped it in the last 30 years, 40 years since you've been there.
No, I'm a Yankee.
Are you?
Yeah.
And
Connecticut?
They called me a Yankee.
Are you a Connecticut Yankee? Or?
No, not at all.
Which one?
Not at all.
Which Yankee are you?
Look, Thomas, my dad was in the Air Force.
Oh, nice.
I went to 7 elementary schools.
There's an Air Force.
I went to 3 junior highs, but I got to go to 1 high school, which was really, really cool.
Nice.
And that's where I met my wife in the senior year of my high school. And we married at 18 years old.
That's beautiful.
And we're still married 52 years later.
Yay!
I love it.
With 2 sons that are great men, and I'm really proud of that. Gives me
an
incredible amount of joy.
Well, you and I are polar opposites because I failed in my marriage after 8.9 months, and I didn't even get to see my kids. So
you should have made an appointment with me.
I should have.
And
I'm a miserable
at
failure
Oxford.
when it comes to relationship.
And 5 grandkids. So
Nice.
I'm feeling really blessed with a lot of joy and a lot of chaos in my life.
Yeah.
Because I also work with substance abuse disorder people. And I've really tried to get away from the whole concept of drug addicts because it creates a shame around it.
Yeah.
And we're trying to change that. We're trying to change it because there's still that stigma.
You know
Right.
what? The because is not as important as how. How
Yeah.
the heck are you doing that?
Here we are right now.
No. Well, in terms of I'm not an addict that I know of, and I think you've kicked all of yours, right?
Right.
So you're not really working with anybody here other than just a couple of intellectually challenged folks. But when you're actually working with, how are you devising tactics to go about helping, especially youth that are hooked into this?
Yes. Right now we have 22 adolescents in treatment that live at our facility. We have 100 adults at another facility that are there mostly from drug court.
Where's the facility? Do people donate to that?
In Orange County, yes. They're both nonprofits.
And what is the name of the nonprofit that people can donate to?
Phoenix House would be one for adults. And we have opened up a new program for moms who have given birth to substance-exposed babies.
Wow.
And they have to go through our program in order to keep their babies.
That's awesome.
No, it is awesome.
So
we're one of the few around.
Is there any more information that we can, because Suzanne's typing that in right now.
Yeah, Phoenix.
Court reporter here.
Phoenix House in Orange County.
And what's the other one?
And Touchstones, which is another nonprofit adolescent program only.
Are you guys flowing in the dough, or you guys need donations?
We always need money. We're a nonprofit. We take just about anybody that comes in the door, but most of our people are court ordered. Even the adolescents, because the adolescents have legal problems, and a judge says you could benefit from treatment as opposed to the California Youth Authority.
So is the state paying for
yes,
that?
you pay for it.
Okay.
You pay for
That's
it. I
great.
pay for it.
Oh, that's cool.
And the feds pay for it, and we get grants, and we get donations, and all that stuff. Okay?
So I'm a challenged youth, and I got a drug issue, and I walk into your facility. What can I expect? How do you go about getting me to shift my perspective.
Well, we have to make sure that you're capable of functioning, and that means, do you need detox? We don't do detox at those two facilities. You get detox in a medical facility first. But I must tell you that's just stabilization. We're going to keep you alive.
Right.
Wow.
We're going to keep you alive. So then the next step is treatment. And treatment is the psychological and emotional part of dealing with life on life's terms now without mood and mind-altering substances.
Mood or mind-altering substance. What's the biggest mind-altering substance that's out there right now that's a major problem that you see? Which one is it?
The polydrug use is just dramatic. That means a whole different assortment of substances. However, what's getting a whole lot of attention, and last year, 2017, 63,000 people died from opioid overdose.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you know that's more than the entirety of the Vietnam War?
Yes, sir.
And this is pharmacology? Are they differentiating?
And that's just one drug.
That's an opioid narcotic.
I heard over 1 million are dying from prescription drugs. Period.
Over time, yes, that will occur. That will occur.
I'm talking about every year. In
So,
terms
we're all like, JC, we're ready to
go.
go.
Come on,
go man, dive.
Look, we have a limited amount of time. We've got to do this right.
Yeah, let's.
And when you look at the prescription drugs that are out there, and how toxic they are, from the lowest level of Tylenol and codeine. Codeine is an opioid, but it's a low level. You go from there to Percodan, Percocets, to OxyContin, to morphine, to Opana, to Norco.
Wow.
The pharmaceutical companies have got a grasp on the American public.
In terms of the that's a feel-good industry, mind you. Right?
It's a feel-good industry when they're making so much money.
Yeah, it's a feel-good for the people taking the drugs short term.
Yes.
And that's probably the biggest challenge for these kids. It makes them feel good when their lives are so confusing, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go too far off track right now because I could really do that.
Oh, I'm going to knock you off track everywhere I can.
Okay, take this one, Thomas. If you started using particular kinds of chemicals after the age of 20, that means 21, you can move from non-use to becoming fully chemically dependent in about 5 to 15 years if you didn't use any of these substances before.
Wow.
So what you've been given is you've been given a little bit of a time frame for that to occur.
Right.
For an adolescent between 13 and 18 years old, they can move through that same continuum in as little as 5 to 15 months.
Wow.
This is my passion. Wait, listen to me.
Oh, yeah, we got you.
5 to 15 months. So I was a school psychologist for a counselor, a coach, a teacher for 10 years in the public school system. And I saw so many kids and families being destroyed that I thought I got to get out and do more.
Wow.
Than what I was doing in a particular high school in a particular school district.
Is there one particular family or kid that sent you over the edge to get you up off your bottom to actually attack this?
No, it was actually a combination of a whole bunch of them. Yeah, it was cumulative, and a lot of mental health stuff is cumulative.
Right.
And you're either going to do something about it or you're going to wallow in it. So I had to take a real look at what I was doing, and I loved working in the school systems. I loved the kids and all the positive stuff that's going on, and then there's all this other negative stuff that's going on too. That
once they're in your facility, though, now they're in a controlled environment.
Yes, controlled environment.
Now I'm bringing my associative programming into your environment. I could be dangerous to myself. I could be dangerous to those around me. Yeah. How do you go about calming me down and making me? How about that first trust? Like you had that exercise in your program where you cross your arms and you lean back, you let somebody catch you. How do you develop the trust in these kids?
What happens is that when you're going through an addiction, you learn not to trust even yourself anymore. You don't trust anybody else,
right?
Much less yourself anymore. Yeah. So you've got to start real basic, and the basic tenets of trust is a physical trust, is a psychological trust and then an emotional trust. Can I trust you to, one, not make fun of me when I talk about myself? Can I trust you that you won't bully me when I expose myself, when I'm vulnerable? Can I trust you that you'll help me navigate this in a way that's going to be safe? So when you put all those things together, that's how you create an environment, is a safe environment. So kids that don't grow up in safe environment. Now, I wasn't finished with my other concept.
It's okay. See? We'll keep running you around.
Okay, you're okay with that.
Yeah,
but
you're okay with that.
I want to ask it. Yeah, no, we're gonna go all over. But you're
on the merry-go-round.
You're philosophically talking, and so what is the practical application?
I just gave you one. A trust fall.
A trust fall. A trust fall.
A trust carry.
I was just imagining
a willow.
I would just imagine you're giving a lot of hugs.
We do that.
So you're basically
hugs, not drugs. One of those.
You're teaching them the tenets of how to trust. So you're teaching them how to trust their mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual being.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
You're providing those tenets within your facilities.
See, and that's exactly what we did on the day you came out to do the filming. When you look at the ropes course, which is 6 stories high, that's going to confront your fear.
My fear. My fear.
And if you define fear as fantasized experiences appearing real, FEAR, you look at that and you go, I can't do that. And we say, you're right. You can't, because you just told yourself you can't. If you say you can do that, we're going to find a way that you can do that. So it's a mental shift immediately.
And we saw that, and I saw that in every kid that was there. So.
Yeah, and then they go to you, Suzanne, where you do yoga, mindfulness, breathing, getting yourself centered again, because when you're dependent on a chemical, you don't feel yourself anymore. You don't feel normal. And by the way,
I guess depletion too of basic essentials in the body to protect itself go away eventually.
I'm going to tell you clinically what that's at. It's called anhedonia.
Anhedonia.
Anhedonia is the inability to feel pleasure anymore.
Oh wow,
man!
Because you have taken those chemicals that produce pleasure.
Serotonin, was it serotonin? Is that the one?
Dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and your mind has developed, and we've been able to do this through SPECT scans. They're single proton emission. They're not MRIs. They're not CAT scans. They're not X-rays. They're SPECT scans, and where we can go into the brain and really begin to look at different parts of the brain. Now, what happens to a lot of people that become dependent is that they have a negativity bias in their brain.
Wow. Okay. So,
and the negativity bias is not trusting.
Bias.
Right.
Okay. So when you think of something, Thomas, do you first go to a negative response, or do you go to a positive takeaway from? On
a good day, I'm immediately aggressive, and then I realize I don't want to go to jail, and I value my freedom, and I reflect, and I sit, and I observe breath, and I dig myself out, and then I try to empathize, and I manage to get myself out.
Okay, so an adolescent can't do that. You know why? Because their prefrontal cortex does not allow them to do that. They're in the throes of their development at a critical time, because it's only a third of our human brain. 2/3 of our brain, it's the old brain, really. It's I'm hungry, I eat. I'm tired, I sleep.
Right.
That's a pea brain. That's a small part of the brain, right?
It's actually 2/3 of the brain.
Really? Then how does a freaking snake with a little pea brain and a big dinosaur with a little pea brain have all those natural inclinations?
Then you've got this prefrontal cortex, which is at the end of its development, physically.
Right.
Is about 22, 23, 24, 25. For males, it's maybe 60. I'm kidding. but it's what separates us from animals. Otherwise, we become animal-like, and the brain becomes animal-like.
Yeah.
And you begin to get into a survival mode, and that's what addictions do. It gets you hyper alert for survival every single, I was going to use an expletive, day.
You could, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, so the next.
So you're trapped in fight or flight.
Yeah, but I guess the next
or flow.
I guess the next logical explanation, if that's the case, would be nutrient-rich food. You must adapt their diet big time. Right?
Absolutely.
That's a big part.
And exercise.
Diet and exercise.
Diet and exercise.
So what is the diet shift that you give them?
Here's I just want to make a point here, because exercise, if we break it down into 90-minute increments, if you exercise for 90 minutes, you're going to experience something better than any antidepressant drug that's out there.
Yes.
We're certain about that. We know that. Yep. But the pharmaceutical companies don't want to tell you that. So if you want to start feeling better, you move.
Yes.
So we build in movement all the time. All the time.
Even if the person's nutrient deficient, isn't that? Don't they need their nutrient value?
Well, something magical happens when you work out, because we've both been athletes. You crave food. You're hungry, so you start eating things.
Okay, and then you have to eat the right things.
Yeah.
So we could spend a whole 2 hours on herbs and foods.
Go ahead. Start.
Because when you come to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, we have a buffet, and each food item has a certain amount, and in that certain amount, it has the amount of magnesium, selenium, vitamins, minerals, all that stuff.
Yep.
And you plug it into your smartphone, and it goes directly to your coach. And then when the coach looks at it and prints it out, they can tell then through blood work, which we do, and urine, where you're deficient in particular kinds of chemicals that can help you.
Nice.
And we can supplement that legally.
So what kind of
foods?
Because
it's nature.
What kind of foods are on that menu?
Oh, it looks like the best buffet you could possibly go to, from all the fruits and vegetables that are certainly fresh, and all the different meats that are out there. We have a lot of athletes that don't eat red meat, and a lot of athletes that eat red meat. We have athletes that eat chicken, and some don't.
Yeah.
So you're
and some only stay with fish.
You're the man that devised that diet. You're the man that's helping devise that diet.
No, I'm not a nutritionist. And,
you're not.
No, not by training at all.
Oh, right.
Observation.
I just know a lot of the people that's in it, and what we do, because.
So you're doing that with your kids then? You're doing that with your kids. You're going about that in sort of the same mindset?
We have in our family, we have vegans, we have vegetarians.
When you say family,
and we have paleo diet.
When you say family, you mean the kids at your
No, I mean my own family.
You have it all exists.
It all exists. And some of us go, "You're eating that? Oh my God." And they go, "You're eating that?"
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So
the key is, I think, you have to listen to yourself.
How drastic is that change once these kids start actually eating something other than potato chips and Coke and drinking Coke and all that stuff?
I'll tell you, Thomas. One of the worst chemicals out there over time is sugar.
Yeah,
absolutely. And by the way, adolescents crave sugar because it stimulates that part of the brain just like cocaine does.
Yeah. It feels
I used to put sugar on my Fruit Loops, so I get it.
Oh, my God.
But it's a wild ride. If
I
you
need
don't
to drug
eat sugar.
test you.
I used to.
Thing over here.
I used to. That was like.
Do they let sugar in the Olympics, like for testing?
Yes.
Really? Because if it's
they do.
You have to be cautious when you eat sugar.
Yes, you do.
All right, so you got a kid.
Yeah.
He comes in, and you immediately got to get a kid that doesn't know how to eat the right food.
Yes, and guess what? They hate it in the beginning. So it's slow immersion. Everything is a kind of a process. It's a slow immersion.
So the normal time span that these kids are there?
6 to 9 months.
Wow.
It's not 2 weeks and a couple of 2-day follow-ups.
That's
that
great.
kind of bullshit.
couple.
It's lifestyle change. I mean, it's a huge transformation.
It's everything changes immediately.
So then you got your diet, and then what kind of exercises they got them doing? Just going for walks or just cycle?
Walks, runs, gym. Yeah, everything. Beach. Ropes course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How regimented is that?
It's highly structured.
Gotcha.
So language changes everything, Thomas.
Gotcha.
Regimented is something that
feels controlling.
Yeah, controlling.
And,
well, you're not a kid. You know what it means.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
But even for adults, they'll revolt,
yes,
right?
Right. Yeah.
If they're vulnerable, he's not vulnerable. This guy's Superman.
These students, they go to school 4 hours a day too while they're there. But that's what you have to do as a young person.
Right.
You have to stimulate that part of your prefrontal cortex that's going to take all that information in, because that's the time.
Right.
You start messing around with the prefrontal cortex as an adolescent, you could be doomed for the rest of your life.
So speak a little bit about that.
Because that's where addictions start.
Right. So is there abilities, because there's more and more studies out in like a lot of medical institutes about regeneration of the brain from Alzheimer's to so for drug use and potential abuse to the physical being, are you seeing regeneration in the brain?
Yes and no. Okay, UCI is a premier research institute, University of California, Irvine, and it's right here locally with us. And I've taught there on and off for years and years and years. And here's one where you take a meth addict. A meth addict has been using for a year or so, okay? They're in bad shape. And what they've done is that they burned the receptor site ends of their receptors so they don't release dopamine and serotonin. That's what creates psychosis. Wow. That's what creates people that are totally out of control and unpredictable, because you don't have those chemicals to modify and modulate your behavior and your feelings.
Right.
Okay? So what happens... am I okay going on?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm bloody interesting.
Okay, here you go.
Don't worry.
We're on the edge of our seats.
Methamphetamine.
I'll interfere with you.
Yes, you will. Methamphetamine, cocaine are vasoconstrictor drugs. Well, all that means is that you have veins and arteries that start out big, and when that drug gets into the blood system, it tightens them up. It constricts them. It takes your chemicals, your collagen out of your body, okay? And it makes them smaller. And when you make that vein or artery smaller, that means it's going to create friction of blood and blood pressure. So that's why it's called speed. Speed is blood that's going fast, which can create an aneurysm, which can create a stroke, etc. So what happens with the brain in that, because that's where we are right now, is that you can create so much heat in those receptor sites that it actually burns the ends of them.
Wow.
So when it burns the ends of them, what happens, if I can give a visual, you have a piece of rope, and you light the end of the rope, and it burns, right?
Right.
Okay, now take a nylon rope, like a ski rope, or something like that, and you burn the end of it. What does it do?
Melts.
It melts. It goes like that. That's what the receptor site does. So then it doesn't release anything. There's no release. That's how you go crazy.
Wow.
Okay? So does that regenerate? Your question. Does that regenerate? 3 years ago, we said no. New research says there's a possibility now that we're seeing that these receptor sites will branch out, kind of like when you trim a tree.
Right.
Okay.
Regrow.
And you have a regrowth here and a regrowth there. Now, here's the deal. If this person does not stay in treatment and stay sober, they will go back to what they were doing.
Right.
If they do stay in treatment, what happens is that it connects to a whole different set of chemicals that create a sense of being centered. The dopamine levels get registered, the serotonin levels get registered, the acetylcholine gets registered, and they start to modify and modulate. And that's when you start feeling better. But I will tell you that for a year in treatment, for a meth addict, cocaine, heroin, prescription opioid narcotics, alcoholism, that year is really tough.
Yeah.
It is a tough year, and it needs a combination of resources to make sure you're going to make it through that. Because it's going to take the brain a year to calm down enough and regenerate enough to accept new stuff.
Absolutely.
Because you feel shitty. I mean, you feel crummy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
That's the anhedonia.
Anhedonia.
That's the it's from the word hedon. Hedonistic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Party.
Adonis.
Yeah.
Adonis. Anhedonia.
Yeah. So this is anhedonia, where you don't have the ability now to take pleasure in simple things.
Right. And so you
like
have a need
meditating,
for speed.
like going to a movie, like going out to dinner, like having a conversation with someone, when all you want to do is go out and use.
Well, just to feel better, though. And in anybody's defense, they are just simply trying to find a way to feel better.
Yeah.
And so an addict is not a guilty, bad person. That's just simply a person that's doing exactly what all of us are doing on a day-to-day moment basis, is feel as good as we possibly can under the circumstances, right?
Under the circumstances, yes.
So what they've done is they've been taught to take a shortcut through these through this quick fix of feeling better, and also it's a huge social, hugely social. Lots of social implications. Yeah. And so that's probably a huge challenge for you as well. You only have 6 to 9 months. Then these kids go back into an environment that, guess what, has all the reminders and all the traps.
Oh, boy.
So the recidivism.
Yep.
Recidivism. I can't even say it.
It's potentially very high.
Yes.
So you see these kids again and again, I guess. Do they have your phone number? Do they call you up when they get in trouble?
Oh, boy. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And adults, too.
Can I call you up when I get in trouble?
You got my number, Thomas.
Oh, God.
We'll get you. We'll get you to a safe place. How's that?
Thank you. Well, just to empathize with your journey. So you get you show up, the kids.
Yeah.
A good several months away. How quickly do you see those brain adjustments?
Actually, in adolescence, it's much faster than adults.
How quickly do you see it?
3 months.
Oh, wow. And so after 3 months, the attitude shifts and their brains start.
If we're doing all the right things, and they are too, yep.
How many people you got helping you at this place?
We have case managers, we have therapists, we have interns, we have all kinds of people.
So when you have a therapist, so how are they actually going about? If you can shed a little bit of light in terms of, for those people that are out there, we have an audience that may not be able to get to a place, or maybe they want to self-heal. What is the technique that these therapists are
maybe
using?
The first step
to getting these kids back onto that first step, because you guys have made this, as you seem to be very scientific and very analytical and very precise, very result-oriented. You must have like a path that's proven.
We do.
That's exciting.
Yeah, well, there's the cognitive behavioral therapy kind of notebook that we go through.
And what does that entail?
That entails the day-to-day living of life and feeling through life. And as you wake up in the morning, because you've got, look, all these...
No, wake up in the morning. Now what?
No. Well, what happens, if you come into treatment, you have a significant sleep disorder also. So your sleep patterns have been dramatically impacted by your drug use.
Absolutely.
Okay. So one of the really important things is getting them back onto a normal sleeping pattern. That's really difficult for a lot of them, adults and kids.
So what's the key to that? Is that sun up and then 3 hours, 4 hours after sundown? Is that what the deal is?
A structured time, yes. A structured time of when we go to bed, and structured times when we eat, and we don't eat 3 hours before we go to bed.
Yeah. So a lot of Chinese medicine principles.
Huh?
These are Chinese medicine principles, because the organ system is recovery at night.
Absolutely.
You want to 3 hours before you go to bed. All those things.
Okay, right, so I'm gonna apply that to one other concept here. Okay, because what we know now is that testosterone is produced during the REM state of sleep. And in order to get into REM state of sleep, it's going to take you about an hour and a half. Some people get in faster, this is just general, hour and a half to 2 hours. And then you go into a REM state for about 4 hours, hopefully. And we're talking optimal. And then you come out of sleep for a couple hours. Okay? So that 4-hour block is so essential to your mental and your physical health.
Nice.
That we I'll give you a concrete example. 530 athletes are in Rio de Janeiro representing the United States of America. Okay? 2016.
Olympics.
Yes, thank you. And we send down 364 beds for athletes that require a particular kind of bed in order to sleep well. Because if you do not sleep well, you do not perform well.
All right, so let's plug a bed, man. Let's plug the company that sells the right bed. Which one is it?
Never mind.
A lot of different beds.
Posturepedic?
No, they're all different.
Everyone has their own
because our
preference.
athletes have different kinds of beds.
Yeah, and their own preference.
Yeah,
like hard,
they're all-
soft.
exactly.
So basically, the point you're making is how important they make it to make sure that they can return to their routine and get that REM sleep based on the environment that they're sleeping in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
And that's good for all of us.
That's good for all of us.
Yeah.
Now, take that concept and really try to apply it to yourself, because it will pay you major dividends.
Yeah, but isn't that a horrible limitation? Now you got to bring your bed with you everywhere.
No.
The sleep part, not your bed.
I can tell you one thing: I can hit REM in a lazy boy. I can hit REM sitting in this chair.
You're blessed with the ability
I'm
to
pretty
sleep
good at
anywhere.
that. Also, I can sleep on a transmission.
Oh my gosh, he's talking about sleep is a great
No,
asset to all of us.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
So you got the rest. So after 3 months, these kids that are there, they're
on a regular pattern.
You're able to measure the quality of the treatment based on whether they're hitting those sleep marks.
Those benchmarks.
Because
there are major benchmarks.
I got that watch, and this watch tells me that thing. So you give them a watch like that?
No, we don't.
So you can measure them and track them around?
We see them walking the halls at night. That's how.
They're not in REM. They're sleepwalking.
Come on, George.
All right, so back to this cognitive therapy thing.
Yeah.
So you've got all the basic pieces in place. You're feeding them better.
Yeah.
You're suggesting to them that and making a point that rest is really important for your recovery.
Uh-huh.
And then they go in and they talk to somebody.
Yeah.
What sort of suggestions are they giving them to allow them to sort of bridge?
Yeah.
Well, also
bridge where they are to where they may be, or where they might. They have to kind of want to go there, don't they? Don't they kind of have to want to?
You're going to take me down another hole here.
Go ahead.
And the hole is there's a myth, and the myth is that people have to want to get help. A drug court has broken that myth.
Wow.
Because well, you decide, I'm going to go to jail or I'm going to go to treatment. Okay, you decide to go to treatment. So
you're putting the cart before the horse there a little bit, because you already have a kid that's in treatment.
Yeah.
And he's after 3 months he starts to recover.
Okay.
So now what sort of information are you giving him to bridge to the next step?
Yes.
What is that cognitive therapy thing?
Okay. Here you've got actually three very significant interventions. One is a one-on-one therapist that's going to help you navigate through all this. Your thoughts, your feelings, your action plan, etc. Then you've got group therapy where it's really hard to BS a BSer.
Yeah.
And other people can go, "You're full of it."
Right. Yeah.
You're conning this whole thing because you got a probation officer coming on Friday and you're just telling us what we want to hear.
Right.
And they can call them down on it. So the group then begins to have a major impact.
The ensemble of people that are there.
Yes. And that's always a critical piece. Then you have family and our family nights. And I do a lot of clinical work with families that are just hurting and destroyed by all this because they've been run through the ringer by their kid or by their wife or by their husband, you know, and they're just about spent. And
literally and figuratively, the rehab place you work at, they charge $30,000 a month.
Yep.
Wow, maybe I should work there.
Well, that's what they charge insurance. I don't know how much it trickles down to, but
yeah. So they could be physically. You could be the last leg for them if they've blown all their money already, and then you got this.
We have those, yes.
But let's say focus on the kid. Forget the families.
Okay.
Let's F the families, because now you've got this one kid that has to navigate that family that actually gave them the values that they're walking around with right now.
Well,
that's tricky.
And sometimes it's not good because you have a belief system that you have to deal with. And this is when we get into a lot of rational emotive therapy.
Yeah.
Rational emotive therapy is you have an activating event, you have a belief system around that event. And that belief system is a rational belief about it, or it's an irrational belief around it. That's where the therapeutic intervention takes place, because you have A, B, and then you have C. You have a consequence of an irrational belief,
right,
or a consequence of a rational belief.
So you're trying to reframe. You're trying to reframe that rational mind, that dualistic mind.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So then, from that, you then have the dispute. A, B, C, D. It's very simple. The dispute says, okay, this is where we need to go on this irrational belief.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and then after that, you got the E, you got the effect.
Nice.
So it's a little package, huh?
Yeah, cause and effect.
Cause and effect. It's a little package, of what got you here, the activating event. I got busted.
Right.
I went to court. My wife is going to leave me. My job says if I don't come here, I'm toast.
Right.
I'm gone. So,
so you're, it's nice to have you here. You're like, we talked about this when we were on mute, but you're the quintessential joy score guy, because your entire life is dedicated to elevating people's joy scores and to teaching them how to see the world through that fresh pair of eyes.
Absolutely.
To get back on their feet and to take those hard lessons, and eventually they're going to have to be able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. They're going to have to be able to adapt. They're going to have to figure out how to value their well-being.
How to trust their resources. You have
go back to that
internal self-regulatory resources.
Right.
Then you have your external resources. You have family. You have therapists. You have occupational people. You have a job. You have all of these other little pieces.
Don't most of your clients or patients want to place too much trust on the external before they're willing to really take responsibility?
Oh, no, it's much easier to do that, yes.
Yeah.
It's much easier to go outside of yourself than to reflect inside yourself.
Yeah.
Much easier all the time.
And I would say this is not just someone that's trying to come into well-being, but most humanity at large has a compulsion towards this. Can you share a little bit to the listeners on how to take self-accountability and build internal trust?
Okay, I'm going to give you a non-clinical thing here. It's called a BMW.
Nice.
Not a car.
I owned a couple of them.
It is not a car.
That made me happy.
The BMW is a blamer, a moaner, and a whiner. So, Thomas, if it fits, there you go.
Thomas calls that a whiny cow.
Well, there's your whiny cow. But look, it's so specific to someone who becomes chemically dependent, is that they want to blame everybody else for their substance abuse disorder, their addiction.
Right.
Now, being a BMW myself from time to time, there can be some legitimate there can be some legitimacy in terms of the environment adversely affecting them. As you made so clearly in the little video, you're saying these people, if they're negative, regardless of who they are, you have to find a reprieve, at least long enough to get on your own feet.
So
that doesn't necessarily make them a BMW as much as, hey, that is a legitimate obstruction to my ability to survive or my ability
the only way you're going to get to that, Thomas, is that you have to understand them. You have to understand the environment that they were living in. You have to understand how they were coping with sometimes an extremely dysfunctional environment, and they were doing the best they could. And the best they could ended up where they are now.
Right.
So the understanding part is intense listening, and it comes from a very easy model, and it's a slant. Sit close, lean forward, ask open-ended questions, nod a lot, nod,
yes,
and track. Look at the person who's talking. I can tell if someone's getting a concept just by their nonverbal communication.
I saw you do that in your teaching. You know, you when you were working with these kids on a broad scale, you were intuitively sensing their responses to your suggestions. And if they weren't all together as a group, you realized energetically they weren't quite paying attention. So you were monitoring their attention based on the response that you were getting, which I thought was quite brilliant.
And one of the things you do is you go, stay with me on this.
Stay with me on this.
Stay with me on this.
And
this is
and
really
you're
important.
staying with them until you feel like that energy, you feel that they're with you.
That's
brilliant.
And so
you're a special man.
By doing that listening, and you're bringing up a good point. So like you're in a place and someone's a whiny cow or a BMW, but you have more self-awareness. So how can you instruct, our listeners out there that are in a family condition where maybe someone's having a difficult time? Maybe they're in a victim mode or they're having a bad day, but the person that's supporting the system is feeling a little bit dampened by that person's attitude. What is a great way to bring balance to that situation without getting drawn down, like you said, into the negativity?
The greatest ship in the universe is friendship.
The greatest ship
I love
in the universe is friendship.
And
ring that bell.
I don't want to minimize your question.
No, that's a great. That one will go. That one, the greatest ship is friendship. That's being a quote, and you'll see it online with your credit there.
There are lots of ships out there.
Yeah.
And I'm saying ships.
Yeah.
So
as opposed, he made a dirty pun.
So
he said instead of shit.
So
you're so PC. I'm kidding.
Because you understand this can be a tug of war.
No, it's dramatic. It's dramatic because I
was stepping to him a little bit just for a second. Is that he talked about? He said they have to understand, and so it's in the understanding where you're able to grasp the objective reality of what's going on with the person in front of you and realize that they need help, not a reactive attack.
Very good, Thomas.
Right? Very good, right?
I'll take that.
I learned that here.
I'll take that. The other piece to that is when you're completely with someone and you understand their life, there's a connection there that can create change.
Perspective, right? You going there?
Moving along a continuum. How far can I push this person? How far can I take this person? It's just like elite athletes. Elite athletes start with a coach that has the basics. Then they move to another coach that has a little bit more than the basics. Then they move to a better coach that has more of a sense of the techniques that they need. Then you move to another coach that has the elite status. So you're moving along a continuum of expertise.
Right. Yeah.
And the continuum of expertise is Kaizen from the Japanese. Kaizen is seeking excellence.
Kaizen, seeking excellence.
Yes. So we took it down into Kanai, constant and never-ending improvement.
Constant and never-ending improvement.
Every single day. When you get out of bed, what are you going to do to improve today?
When you get out of bed, what are you going to do to improve?
We love it.
Today. Damn it, from Dr.
That needs to be
Bill
on a
Beecham.
shirt. What are you going to do to improve today, Dr. Bill?
That's right. What I did today...
He came here. What are you talking about?
I'm here in the rainy night.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we appreciate, I'm sure our listening audience really appreciates these nuggets that you're dropping on us right now.
Okay, try this one.
What?
Luck.
Luck. The acronym for luck?
People think that other people are just lucky.
Right.
And
luck is a product of consistent effort. How about that one?
Labor utilizing correct knowledge.
Labor utilizing correct knowledge.
LUCK. Work your ass off.
And have fun.
With the best coaches, the best nutrition, with the best mental attitude.
With the best attitude.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how it works.
That's how you get to
what
that.
What was the C again?
Kaizen.
Correct.
No, correct knowledge.
Labor utilizing correct knowledge.
Yeah, not
labor utilizing correct knowledge.
Yeah, you're working hard over there.
Labor.
I'm listening and recording.
See, I always,
and asking questions.
I would never remember the knowledge part because it's a K.
It's a K.
Knowledge.
I would be like, knowledge. Where's the K in luck? Knowledge. No, that's an N.
And how do you help people understand the difference between correct knowledge and it's a little bit dualistic, but you know, discerning what is helpful knowledge and what is not?
People have to believe that you can help them.
Okay.
And
so there's a point there where if I have a therapist that is not really very effective,
right,
we move them along.
Yeah.
Good. Thank God.
We moved on.
No tenured idiots. Thank you.
And in my line of business, there's a lot of not good therapy going on.
Well, I noticed in the clinic there's a lot of...
That's why I was asking you what your path was through that cognitive therapy, because of those steps that you guys have, that you're looking for these kids to take or looking to apply to see if they can take them, and if not, give them something else to get around it, to get something else. But that's why I'm really kind of digging at the how are they doing that, because what's fun is that they have you there, and they're so blessed to have you, because from your perspective, you're not looking at them like, let's just get you out of here. You're there with a boundless perspective and an understanding of what their potential could be, because you work the full spectrum. You work with Olympic athletes, you work with NCAA athletes, you work with the best in the world, you work with the Green Bay Packers, who are not the best this year, but they're working on it. You need to go talk to them again, because they're definitely struggling. They got issues. But they have you there. And that must be, you got to be careful too, because your bar could be unrealistically high, but I guess you have to maintain a perspective of potential, seeing them get to their steps, and then knowing, hey, he's there, let's give him this.
Thomas, I wake up every day going, what's going to happen? And I'm
sure you do.
It's just amazing.
What's going to happen?
I love it. I absolutely
Well, you are a man
love
of action, because that's the first thing that we look for. That's how I teach my very successful actors. They get, the main thing that they have is they understand that they don't get to know, but they understand that every time action is called, that their acting is an occurrence and a happening. It's not something that's preconceived, and it allows them to live truthfully under the imaginary circumstances, which makes them great artists. You are also attacking it from that perspective, and I totally appreciate that.
Okay, the day you and Suzanne came out, and we had kids that are currently in rehab, and they were mixed in with other kids that have none of these problems.
Correct.
That we know of.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the kids in one of the group sessions that we had afterwards, the debriefing, etc., the kid said, that's the first time I've had fun being sober. And this is a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And that spark
absolutely
can create more and more sparks.
Yeah, they just need to have one association, really.
Yes, it's the F factor,
or one leader.
The F factor is the fun factor.
Yeah, the fun factor.
I thought you were going to say father.
No, fun factor.
It's the fun factor.
I like that.
Yes. You look at healthy families. Look at healthy families.
I wouldn't know.
And then you go, how does this family have fun together?
Right.
And they have multiple ways that they silly, stupid.
I can reflect on my adolescence, and that my family situation was so screwed up, but I was always clinging on to families that appeared to be healthy, that had some sort of a internal structure, and was able to look to those people and look to see what they were doing and how they actually were disciplining their kids, and whether I was being disciplined in that way or not, I was just picking up on, I see what
Wasn't
they're
that
doing.
part of nature's instinct? We kind of seek out that which we need emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually?
Absolutely. Look, I also work with very well-to-do communities. And what we find in well-to-do communities is there, in many cases where these kids have lots of problems.
Yeah, and a lot of resources. It's okay.
But they don't access those resources.
Right.
Is that they have a high level of unearned self-esteem.
Yes.
Yes. Did I just make sense?
Yes.
Unearned self-esteem.
No.
I love it. Yeah.
They haven't had to do a damn thing for themselves.
Right.
You know what I
no
notice?
self-reliance.
You know what I notice is that guys with a lot of money, guys with a lot of education, think that they are entitled to do things that they've never even experienced and are clueless about.
Yes.
I observed this.
Yeah.
I went to a school where there was a lot of kids, not all, but an affluent community. They had a lot of resources given to them.
Right.
But what I witnessed is that with drug addiction and alcohol abuse, a lot of them ended up like going out in the world and then coming back. Like they had to take a lot of steps back to regain what it meant for them because they just had a kind of a free ticket on many regards.
Yeah.
So it was really eye-opening for me to watch that going, wow, you know, but you do have the choice. You don't have to necessarily go down that road.
Well, what's cool too is that you are a father figure. You carry the strength and the intelligence and more importantly the presence, the not just the guy with a degree who went to Oxford, but you're embodying your own journey, and that makes you a natural, powerful leader.
I appreciate that.
The kids don't necessarily ever see that, and so there you are.
But they don't care.
You think so? You think physiologically coming in contact with a guy with your presence and your know-how and your confidence is not going to influence them just by your mere presence? I would say so.
No.
All right,
You've seen it all. You've seen it all.
Well, listen,
who the hell are you?
Yeah, but that's who the hell are you? Because they're not capable of seeing what's in front of them because their neurons are burned, and after 3 months they probably start to have a tremendous respect.
You know
and
what I love,
appreciation.
Thomas, is that I love for someone at a particular moment in a therapeutic process or even a long-term friendship, and I'm able to move them to the next level. That gives me so much joy.
There you go.
That's your joy.
And that's the spark.
So you're in service to every moment with every relationship you're having.
Oh yeah.
Wanting to coach them along.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Thomas is going to make an appointment with me.
Yes.
He'll be out there working on the ropes course with you in the next month.
No, I'm having on the stretcher.
Yeah.
Well, like any great teacher, and I guess any teacher out there can align themselves with that perspective, but not a lot of them are saving lives like that.
Okay.
Because you are saving lives
Thank you.
on that level, and we all know that, especially if you can get a kid to see the world with a fresh pair of eyes and gain some self-respect and get healthy again.
Yes.
He internally owes you a debt of gratitude that can be unmatched in his life.
I've had the pleasure of having many of my former people.
What's a success story? What's the greatest success story that you have with one of your clients?
Oh no, I have a lot.
Go get one that really hits you in the heart.
Just pops in your head now.
One that hits you in the heart. Follow just.
Wesley, African American kid, came from a very difficult upbringing, and was referred by the court system, and was at that time we had an adolescent program at Phoenix House, and I was his mentor for a year. And look, I prefer sometimes the term mentor than the term therapist.
Yeah.
Than the term clinician.
Well, you know what mentor means literally, right?
Yeah.
What?
Mentor.
Male mother is the interpretation, the root of that word.
I'm not going to go there with that
one. That's what mentor means.
My sexual identity is intact.
A nurturing male is what mentor literally means.
Both masculine and feminine are intended to nurture.
Yes.
He's a male mother.
So Wesley was a very important project for me, and He was
what was he hooked on?
He was polydrug user. So
polydrug user.
You could just pick almost anything.
And so he didn't have he didn't have
he
much
was
of
the life of the party.
He didn't have much of he had no family support.
No, not at this point.
And so he went through your 6-month program, 9-month
No,
program?
it was 14 months for Wesley.
14 months for Wesley,
and then Wesley went out, and then Wesley came back.
Mm.
And Wesley went out, Wesley came back, and then what?
And Wesley was almost dead.
Oh.
And it was.
I said success story. Come on.
Yes.
So he
well,
almost
there's the rainbow at the end of the story.
It was it was heart-wrenching.
God, don't make me cry. I want a success story.
As Wesley then moved through the other steps that needed to happen, because when you work through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you start going back through amends, and the 4th step of amends is making amends to those that you have hurt.
Right.
And
this is step number 9, right?
Yeah. Well, it's actually listing out the ones in 4.
Oh, okay.
So Wesley had written me a letter, and that letter is probably one of the more important things in my life.
So how did he pull himself up? What did he do?
On how he felt he disappointed me.
Oh.
So I told you.
And from that point on, Wesley went through the next phase of treatment really, really well. And he's now doing really well.
What's he doing?
In the Bahamas. You know, he's a hotel manager.
Oh,
to Wesley. To Wesley.
And Dr. Beecham.
Dr. Beecham.
That's just, but look, the successes are almost every day.
Yeah.
And the disappointments are almost every day.
Right.
So,
isn't that true of all of life?
So, when we look at how we reframe those things, because I didn't lose on that person, I learned. And what do I need to learn to do differently? And that's what I want all of my therapists, all of our clinicians. What do we need to do differently with this kid?
Yeah.
What did we miss? And maybe it was maybe it was a connectedness.
Are you talking about somebody you lost now? Are you referencing somebody who's died, who gave up or
that just
crossed
was
over?
Not successful.
Well, that's well, listen, it's not successful from that one perspective, but look at the gift. You lose one, everybody questions themselves and gets better, and you save 10. You save 100. You lose one, you save 100. And I guess for you, not to make it a numbers game or just passionate numbers game, but that's the reality is that you guys are not like going, oh, I quit. You're saying, okay, well, we didn't see it right. We needed to treat him in a particular way where he might have had a greater shot.
What did we miss?
What do we miss?
Yeah.
And so how, but the result of that is still success.
I'll give you a
program perspective.
I'll give you an example of what did we miss. The miss was on this particular kid, 17 years old, going back into a highly dysfunctional family setting. When we tried to get him to go live with a significant other, we call them SOBs.
Right.
Significant other beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or AKA.
Okay.
Significant other brother.
And we were not successful, and he went back into that
triggered it all,
and it just destroyed
a
year's worth of work.
If you can share, even for some of our listeners might be in the wellness industry, practitioners and therapists, and I see this a lot in the clinics that I teach at. There's a lot of turnover, and sometimes I get a group at a process, and they're like, can we process with you, because they're mad at the therapist, from how it's run.
Yeah.
What I notice is there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
If you can share a little bit how someone can be a better facilitator and take care of themselves. What are some of the things they can do to be in well-being, to keep themselves elevated?
That's interesting. How do you keep your therapist in shape?
Oh yeah.
Because it's from my experience, they're in that environment. A lot of people put themselves second, third, fourth, and fifth, and so they're not fresh when they come in the room with that group of patients.
Well, caretaker burnout is huge.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And in our particular facility, we have people that have been there 15 years.
That's beautiful.
Well, they're heroes.
So it's a matter of checking in and checking out. And when do you check in and when do you check out?
Right.
And when do you need help and when you're just doing just
and we're
just
talking
fine.
about a therapist right now.
Right.
Yes, we're talking about people who help other people. And that's why in supervision it becomes really, really important. Are you even up for this kind of work?
Right.
And because it's going to drain every portion of your body and your soul.
Yeah.
Because that's what it takes.
Yeah.
In order to be succcul.
Huh. Well, I wouldn't look at it like that.
I do.
All. I would not look at it like that at all.
So,
in you say step away when the time. Listen, I developed some of the most difficult individuals on the planet, and that's actors, actors, writers, aspiring directors.
Yes.
Work with PTSD people.
Yeah.
One of the ways we came up with the PTSD approach is by reverse engineering character development, which allows us to sort of look at things backwards to minimize and to shrink the identity that an individual might have that was programmed on the wrong basis or on a basis that's unhealthy. And the perspective from the therapist's perspective shouldn't necessarily be any different than a good athlete, because you have to fill up from your practice. If you're not filling up from your practice, you're going to be depleted. You're going to run. You're going to hit walls. You're going to break down. You're going to hit plateaus, and then you're going to start descending. So the same techniques and practices that you're teaching these kids are the same ones that the therapist could be taking on in terms of perspective, healthy perspective.
That's the same thing as a coach.
Yeah, because
it's the same thing as an athlete.
But if I perceive you positively, and the world is full of potential, if we just take you through these windows, I'm filling up as I work with you, and my endurance in my craft comes from filling up from the artist. Even stepping into that ring, I fill up. I appreciate their challenge. I'm inspired by the challenge, which allows me to open up and be more perceptive.
Terrific.
So when I'm done, I'm like, I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm up. I'm not down.
I tend to be that way at the end of the day. And then having get myself into another place so I can release.
Gotcha. I understand. Well, yeah. It's a tricky bit. I mean, think about the tragedy in the story, but part of the responsibility of the therapist is not to identify with the story as much as it is to monitor the individual and sensing what it is that they need. So you can
well, that word mentor is a really good word because it's your guide.
It also implies love.
Yeah.
It also implies an unconditional, I'm here for you. And regardless of how you are, I will be here to help serve you.
Yes.
And I have actors are crazy. And so what happens?
Well, by definition.
And so basically you're teaching them, especially a professional actor that's already been in the industry, that's already wired wrong. The only thing I'm bringing a professional is perspective and how to actually get to the same place that they are, so they can have their freedom and so they don't have to get burned out by an industry that has a ton of expectations and requirements, which seems to be the main nuisance of being in society, is feeling you either have to live up to them or you're putting these requirements that take front and center over the actual task or action that it's going to take to possibly fulfill a goal. And it's like from a therapist perspective or from a teacher perspective, that's how we got to go. Otherwise, the world and our clients are going to kill us. And is that worth any amount of money?
If you're a really good actor,
you're free.
You're free.
Yeah.
If you're a really good therapist, you have to be able to find the hurt. Where is the hurt in this person?
Right.
And
the roots.
And in order to do that requires a very deep connection. And in order to get to that, it's going to take some time and it's going to take some real skill. because people don't like to talk about their hurts.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's
absolutely.
That's interesting.
Well, it's because you have to get them to the roots. I call them the roots because if there's a lot of evading, the blame game, the fixation of the external versus the internal. It takes courage to look at those things.
It does. And if you look at a lot of the new research on adverse child experiences, ACE, adverse child experiences, divorce, trauma, molestations, incest, drug use, go down a list of all the societal ills that you can go into.
Yep.
Those adverse child experiences then in adolescence, if we don't take care of those during adolescence, it creates a very neurotic adult that does not function well in society. But we have a window, and the window of adolescence is not a long window in our lifetime.
Right.
It's a short one.
Yep.
From about 11 to about 22, 23 years old. That's your window. And there's so much that happens, and it's called the essence of adolescence. And the essence of adolescence, the ES, is the emotional spark. This is why I love adolescents, because they have more emotional spark than we do, because they have more chemical than we do. As an adolescent,
more
they
potential.
They have more dopamine. They have more serotonin.
Right.
It's wasted on them. Holy crap!
No, it's there for.
They have
a
more
reason.
God,
testosterone.
it makes me crazy. I'm working for that one right now.
Okay, so emotional spark, social engagement, the other SE.
Yeah.
And because if they don't have really good social ties during that adolescent period of time, their adult life is very limited.
Right.
Then you get into the novelty. This is why I love adolescents also. They love new stuff. And I love new stuff. And let's go where no one else has ever gone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The great explorer.
That's fresh. And so what's cool is you are enjoying that process.
Oh, yes.
them.
That's where I really get my spark.
That's where your fill up is.
I get filled up there.
That's how you counter the horrible stories, because you're not looking at the horrible story.
No.
You're inviting them to see things fresh, because they naturally are inclined to see things fresh.
Yes.
And if you keep that door open, or you show them, build a bridge for them to remind them of that they weren't put here to suffer. Right. They weren't put here to, be miserable, that you were put here for a much more fun purpose. I guess that's how we go about monitoring an improvement.
That's the last CE, in essence.
In essence. Nice.
Creative engagement.
Nice.
So
creative engagement.
So the whole day at the ropes
could be
course.
In theater,
Now the whole day, the whole day at the ropes course is based on that emotional spark. Because if you make it up the ropes course and you go down that zip line, you're going to feel it, and you're going to feel it dramatically, and you will not forget that, because it's physical, psychological, and emotional.
Yeah,
and it's fun.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Bill Beecham, and he's an expert on all this stuff, and he's got an extraordinary treatment program. That's who's talking right now. So ears open. Keep going.
I forgot where I was.
Well, you said the emotional spot. You said you were going to give them the emotional essence, and then creative engagement.
Yeah, no. We're going to give them that emotional spark without a drug involved.
Yeah, and so they learn how they can access it.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, we do that with elite athletes.
Nice.
Is getting them into a place where they can access those chemicals when they need them and block out everything else. It's lock on, lock out.
Yep.
Lock on, lock out.
What do you say? Drop down, give me 100?
No. We don't. In fact, one of the things that we do
Jumping jacks? Run around the block?
And I'm really good about this, is a systematic desensitization technique where you start with the feet.
Yeah.
And
drop in.
You ratchet them up, you wrinkle them up, and you hold it and you hold it and hold it and feel it and feel it, and then you release. And you do that in every muscle part of the body.
In my acting training, we call that an expansion and contraction exercise.
Well, that would be labor intensive. Yes.
No, sitting here. No, same deal. Go ahead, keep talking.
And
you're just verifying.
And by the way,
my approach,
when you get into a systematic desensitization process, when you get them incredibly relaxed, that's when you start introducing stress. Stress is good.
Yeah.
I love stress.
Well, you're talking about
this can be a motivator.
Absolutely.
That's a different word. Resistance, maybe.
Well, it depends on what's happening out there. So you get them into this really relaxed state, and then you start inserting particular kinds of stressors that they have, and you know them because you've been working with them.
Right.
You know, you're going to go back into this house. You're now turning the knob on the door. And as the knob turns, you hear a little click. And the little click releases the knob. And the door begins to open. And as you open the door, you take your first step in. And everything's all right.
Dr. Bill Beacham, ladies and gentlemen. This guy's laying it out for us. And he just had a little moment himself right here in the JoyScore studio. And that was quite beautiful. You know what's cool about that is that's the first thing that you've allowed us to see about you that makes you really unique and special, because you just brought this whole room and anybody watching into a whole nother state of being through your presence.
Thank you.
And that's so we could have you here for 17 more hours. Clearly,
if you're gonna perform in front of 1 billion people, I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you're an
Olympian,
Olympian,
that's what you do in Olympics.
If you're an Olympian, you're going to perform in front of 1 billion people.
Right.
That can be totally whelming over. We don't use the term overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's whelmed over.
Yep.
Okay. So you have to get totally into the moment, into yourself, and understand what may be stressing you, what muscles may be tension, because that will inhibit your performance levels.
Absolutely.
Well said. So you're dealing with a thing called the relaxation response.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
all the time.
Which allows us to gain perspective of the objective reality where we are in relation to the actual things around us, and allows us to do what we can.
Well, and visualization and stay in your zone. I mean, as an athlete, I found that to be so key.
Well, we take visualization to a whole nother level, because visualization, you can smell it.
Yep.
You can feel it.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That people think, well, you just visualize the place in your mind, and that's okay. No, it's a total process of
all senses.
Being totally there with your senses.
We call that inner presence when the body is aligned with the imagination. Inner presence.
There you go.
Isn't that beautiful? Listen, we got like 1 minute left. Is there something that you need to?
It went fast.
Is there something that
we're gonna have you back,
somehow
Dr.
we've
Beacham.
left on the table, other than like clearly this could be a whole series of conversations with you, and it could be sold to gazillions for millions.
You're a master's class.
No, this is the fun. This is the F. This is the fun.
You are a true master. What have you left in the? If you could give our audience something to walk out of here with that they can apply on their day-to-day to make their lives better, what would it be?
Anna Eason.
Anna Eason.
Life shrinks or expands in direct proportion to one's courage.
Oh, wow. Life shrinks
and expands.
Life shrinks or expands in direct proportion to one's courage. So what we try to do is we try to help people find their courage. And that's a daily process.
Wow.
Just driving out of here tonight in the rain on the freeway takes courage.
In the LBC.
In Long Beach, in sunny California, which is not sunny tonight. Well, this has been Dr. Bill Beacham, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
And he has been he has dropped some serious wisdom bombs on us, and hopefully we'll have him back in here again if he has anything more that he wants to say. He's certainly more than welcome here at JoyScore.
And go to his website, drbeacham.com, and we didn't get to talk about...
drbeacham.com. These old guys don't have a freaking Instagram. They don't have a Facebook. They have a website.
He's too busy.
They have a website.
But we did post above a great memory of late former President Bush.
Right.
H.W.
You're
Bush.
Friends with Mr.
So
Bush.
please check it out.
Let's honor George.
Today's
it was sad, right? Did you watch that thing?
National Day of Mourning.
Wow. And, how did you know our president, our former president, 41?
I was invited to do a 3-hour workshop with President Bush and the White House staff.
Can we see that on tape? Is that on YouTube?
I put it on the feed here.
They allowed the cameras to come in for a moment in time, and so the filming was done on ABC that night.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey.
breaking news, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's where George Bush then is going to do a role play of a kid that has a substance abuse problem in his classroom.
And her name's
Her name was Suzanne. I was like, what are the chances we're listening to it?
So
you guys
was not me.
Look for Dr. Bill Beecham online and watch him teach.
I was honored.
Watch him teach 41, and he was probably a fabulous guy, like we all feel he was.
No kidding.
Run our minute and a half one, can you?
And put mute on.
And put mute on.
You look kind of like that's all.
Come on over here. Come on over here. Okay, come on over here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Orange County World Tour. Everybody say hi.
Got all kinds of kids out here from all different kinds of schools and different rehab programs, etc. And they did really well. They got out of their comfort zone and really started to grow.
Cool. Anything special today?
Anything special today?
Anything
we had kids that were crying because they did something they thought they could never do.
All right. Hey. Okay. That.
Unmuted and live.
Wow, people, that was Dr. Bill Beecham, man. That guy seriously dropped some wisdom on us, and what a awesome human being who's, you know, still kicking ass in his later years. He's got to be at least 60, and he's just pushing the envelope and helping people and putting himself in harm's way, and not afraid to face down other people's demons with all of his wisdom and all of that, and
keeping it fresh.
Keeping it fresh. He's definitely keeping it fresh.
He's the king of acronyms. Like, he's in the know.
Oh my goodness, so many great lessons, right? I mean, he is just. I love it. I love the fact that he's got that high end with the most refined types of people,
right?
Athletes under the most stress, and then he takes the most vulnerable and teaches them those lessons. So at some point they can, reach their potential, just like these higher end folks are.
Well, and he's really, it's an integrative approach because he's bringing in science. He's bringing in really some Eastern methodologies to meet.
Well, it's hard to listen. You could call it Eastern methodology, but basically the Easterns, all they did is make common sense out of their observations. So it can, if you manage to pay attention and evolve, it doesn't just become from the East. It comes from the divinity of being a human and striving to survive and be your best so that you can put food on a table, so you can put a roof over your head, so you can take care of your clan. I think these are very primal essential lessons that nature would have taught us had we not have the comfort of four walls and welfare.
100% agreed.
Yeah. If we didn't have all these buffers that society gave us, we'd be forced to face these things or perish.
You adapt really quickly. It's pretty fascinating when you go out in the outback.
Yeah, and he's talking about fight or flight. And are you back with us?
Yeah.
He's talking about fight or flight and the urgency that these kids are under when they come in, and more of their animalistic survival instincts are right at the forefront when they come in. So they're dealing with potentially dangerous people, not only to others but to themselves.
Well, and I think it's a good reminder for anyone that is dealing with an addictive pattern. That movie Beautiful Boy, you saw the repetitive cycle, but knowing what he was orating about, the inability to experience pleasure anymore is pretty huge. And so if the only thing that gives you that is that, vice, it's pretty fascinating to for perspective, for compassion and tolerance during the process.
Yeah, because even just the comforts of society can buffer us from the right choices that we got. Well, we got Will Sennett coming in.
Yeah, he's in the house.
He's out in the wings. You know, he had to come in from Hollywood in the rain and probably all the traffic. So we certainly appreciate him being here. So we have writer Will Sennett with us tonight. Come on in, Will. Are you out there? I think I saw you in the.
Woo! Welcome. This is like a total surprise. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Have a seat right there. You've got some headphones that are hanging on the.
Yeah, we'll let you get set up.
Hanging on the mic there.
This is some comfy stuff here.
Yeah.
And then you got to pull that mic about 2 inches from your mouth, and we'll be able to hear you.
How am I doing?
You're doing good. Why don't you flip those earphones around so that cord is not coming across your face?
Yeah, I see.
And then it's a little bit more comfortable. Now we can see your handsome face. There you are. There's Will Sennett, writer.
Yes.
Whom I had the pleasure of working with not so long ago, and it was a real pleasure having that exchange from me being an actor to you being the creator of your piece. That was a real pleasure and a treat for me to experience that with you.
Oh yeah, well thanks for saying that. And I was telling I like talking about it because it was my first kind of experience with real pros, you know, like on set and stuff like that.
Are you calling me a real pro?
Oh, absolutely. No, I remember.
It looked professional.
No,
I saw some of the pictures.
He was very professional, and he was in his own space, and I saw him, you know, he's doing all these exercises. Thomas is doing all these exercises, and just like, I was, you know, because from the outside, not really knowing what was going on, I was like, what is this guy doing? You know,
you're like, do we have to 5150?
Yeah. He's jumping up and down, and slowly it started to make sense because he's creating this character from nothing, and so it was kind of cool to see happen before my very eyes.
I love it. You must have had a little bit of comedic riff going on in your head since you have that propensity.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But no, it quickly became less of like looking at something I didn't understand to something that I was like, I need to understand, you know.
Well, listen, how did it feel to see your piece come to life?
It was a bizarre, because, you know, you hear people talk all the time about, you know, like writers on set, like having a hard time being on set because, you know, it's their thing happening through another person's vision. Right. And I always remember, I was like, no way. Like, I'm going to love watching that. But when it at first started happening, I was like, oh my God, like this is I had to leave because it was like, you know, not that like somebody was doing it
right, but
because I gave it to people exactly, but I gave it to people more talented, you know, and capable than I was to do it.
Yeah,
but it was just so much different than I initially thought, not in a bad way,
right?
But it's just not what I thought it was going to be.
Well, and this happens to a reader. I mean, I'm a writer, so like you read a story and you construct it in your mind's eye, your imagination, and then you might see it in film. Or someone else might be like, that's not how I perceived it at all.
Yeah,
so.
happens it happens with, like, you listen to a band, you know, for a long time, then you finally see what they look like. That's not what that was, you know.
Well, what's nice is you weren't an obstruction. You were there, and you were very supportive, and your input was extremely professional. That's not always the case with a lot of writers, which is why typically they're ostracized from the entire process, because the last thing the director really wants is his vision impeded upon by an old idea. And the fact that you were able to roll with it and be a part of it in that particular capacity means that probably, unless you learn how to direct, which I encourage you to do, especially if you're writing and you're still a young man, you're going to suffer watching people destroy your masterpieces. but you had Andrew Kai in there who kicked butt.
Absolute stud, yeah.
Have you seen the dailies? Have you seen the raw
Yes,
footage?
I was watching it. It looks incredible. It looks like 10 times better than I ever could have imagined. It's really cool. You know.
Well, Andrew Kai is a great up and coming talent. I had the pleasure of working with him as he came into LA and was able to steer him in a particular couple of directions. But that kid has evolved, and he's been on Lethal Weapon. He's already got several television credits. I mean, he's aggressive. He's smart. He's a handsome kid. I see that. He's a star of your freaking thing.
He works his butt off.
He's gonna give that film some legs for a long time because he's just a young man.
Yeah, and it was kind of the same thing. It was just like watching him kind of get in his own space, you know, and just absolutely work it. Like we were doing these, like, you know, long takes of these like incredibly difficult, you know, emotional stuff, and he was just bringing it like time and time again. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, repeating it.
Yeah, I was exhausted just like standing there. I didn't know how these guys do it.
It's actually someone's hell, right? You have to keep repeating like this
right,
intense, emotional.
over and over and over again.
He probably dreamt that for days.
Well, listen, so you got that one under your belt, and I guess you're watching it come to life in the editing room and all of that stuff, but as any writer has, he's got several things cooking inside of him. What you working on now? So right now, this idea has kind of been kicking around in my head for a while. It's kind of like a little. I kind of gravitate toward action comedy. I think that's more. Well, because you got a little comedic background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and it's a good way to. It's a good way. I find a good. I like to try to find a good way to blend the two. Believable action and believable comedy.
Well, that was original comedy, slapstick comedy, like Three Stooges.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's big money too. You get one of those together and get it out, and get a couple actors that can actually execute it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully, but that's probably a long ways off, if ever. No.
Well, listen. What is You're in L.A. You're in the belly of the beast. How long have you been there?
I've been here since February.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are kicking butt, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Look at that. Look at that. Almost.
And you went to Miami.
Miami of Ohio, not the fun one. Florida.
Well, no, my nephew's going to Miami University of Ohio in Oxford, Ohio.
Yep.
So it's really confusing all around. You're like, what's happening? So very good.
Wow.
Is that where you? I went to the University of Cincinnati.
You went to UC? Yeah. Get out of here. Oh my! I lived 30 minutes from UC's campus.
My only legitimate year of college that I managed to complete without being stone cold drunk.
How did you end up at UC?
Well, in the day I was a football player. I was a wishbone quarterback.
Oh,
and they were one of the colleges that sent me a letter.
Wow.
Right? And so they didn't give me a scholarship, but I was coming in there injured. I had fractured my neck, so I was kind of damaged goods. But at that point, I realized the guys were too big and I was too vulnerable. So that ended rather.
Yeah, the
quickly.
wishbone is not easy on a QB, especially one that can get hurt.
I had some legs, and even though they weren't running the bone at that time, I was fairly athletic. But that's how I got to UC.
Wow.
And I loved Ohio that year. It was a really wonderful year. But coming from Ohio, also, very religious sort of a place, little conservative, but gosh darn, they love to drink. We used to go to Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
We used to go to Kentucky because the drinking age was like 18 in Kentucky. We crossed the bridge and get over there and party our butts off. Did you do any of that?
Oh, I mean, I didn't party my butt off quite as hard. I was very, religious Irish Catholic parents.
Yeah, you have the Catholic.
They're the Catholic
Irish look.
Yeah, you can just smell it on some people.
How does that influence your writing?
I think it influences my writing because I am kind of imbued with this deep sense of self-reflectiveness. I think it's because with Catholicism, it's just be quiet and pray, think, atone for your sins, and so you spend a lot of time just silently contemplating all of the horrible things.
Is that where the satire began?
I think, honestly, I think so. And it just kind of, it allowed me to kind of develop.
One too many time in Dante's Inferno.
Oh my! Don't even get me started on that.
In Purgatory. Oh, is Catholicism where we start with this fear? You said it in another interview. A God-fearing man. Are you a God-fearing man? I don't even know what that means.
I think so. For sure. I'm afraid of something. Okay. There's something. I wake up every morning, I'm like, oh, geez,
It's all that contemplation.
All that contemplation. But yeah, I think it allowed me to just kind of develop a self-reflective type of style. And I try to, think about, the things I have done, I would do, in these situations. And I try to, spin it into a way that is, both funny while also being, realistic and interesting. Trying to, combine all that.
Who the hell do you think you are coming from Ohio to L.A. and just gonna knock down the doors? Who the heck do you think you are?
Fucking, I don't know, brother. I'm just.
Well, there must have been a moment where you wanted to come here.
Oh, it was always there.
Where you realized, was it?
I think, yeah, it was always. I need to. It was never a question of if I wanted to. It was a question of if I had the kind of, the ability to just go for it. To be able to get over the fear of failing out here. That was what would have kept me. if anything.
So what? Would you break up with a girlfriend? Your parents throw you out?
No.
What?
What
got you out here?
It was just the fear of one day looking back and not done it.
Regret.
That's what the fear regret.
That a boy.
Yeah.
Woo!
That's a major leap from freaking Ohio to Los Angeles, and then boom, you go to work, you find a crew of people, you write something, you get a crew of people together, and here you are doing your thing.
Yeah.
And prior to this, you received a couple awards so far.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, there is these very big screenwriting competitions that are always happening around the country, and I wrote this script for a screenwriting class I took in Miami. And I had a professor who was, just an all-star of a guy, very, talented screenwriter. And he was just like, listen, like you have something,
Right.
This first draft, first screen, he's like, this as of right now isn't good, right? But the bones are there. So if you're willing to, go back and kill this thing that you created and try to make it better, it could eventually get
do
there.
Something.
Right. And so, I went back and I painfully, it felt like I was cutting off limbs, cut off all the things that I loved, all these scenes I thought were funny but didn't add anything. And I just built it back up, and then I did it again, then I built it back up to where I felt like it was strong, it flowed, it was concise and funny, and I sent it out to...
What's the name of it?
It's called The Irish Vacation.
Oh.
And that's the story behind that's good. It's about two brothers, third brother dies, and they come home for his funeral, and they find out that, maybe the brother didn't die in the way that people are telling them they did. And so my grandfather, he always told me he grew up Irish Catholic, dirt poor. He never went anywhere except for if somebody died, a funeral. So a funeral, they call it the Irish Vacation.
Oh my God, I love
it. Yeah. What is that bell? I love that.
Like,
what do you mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
It means that you said something that was
No,
poetic.
It means when that energetic level in this room gets to a certain point that we have to celebrate what just happened, we ring that thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that, the Irish Vacation.
So it goes in waves in here. So as you come up and we get a point, we ring a bell.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Hell yeah. We got a couple of Buddhist bells. That's an actual Buddhist bell, and that's a real sacred little dinger.
Wow. A little dinger.
A little dinger. Little dinger.
Little dinger and little dinger too. Woo!
That's amazing. I love that.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with these people?
Why are you doing that? Just to bug you.
No, I love it. I please, I'm a comedian. Any kind of clap or praise, that's crack.
And you're getting laughs.
You're getting laughs. This is the best night of my life. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Well, good. We hope we just scare this kid out. He'll never come back once he's a big star. I'm going to call him up and say, "Will, come on, man, you're a big star now. You have a lot of followers now. Come on in here." Spread some
hey,
love.
you guys still got them bells? I'm there. As long as you keep that, it's like the dinner bell, man. You ring it, I'm there.
We did have one guest that he was so hot in here. He's like, "Could you please ring the bell so I can get through us the interview?" See, it's helpful.
Yeah, it's all about the feedback, baby.
So when are you going to produce that Irish Vacation?
Well,
who bought it?
Nobody's bought it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Are we going to have to make that thing? Is there a part in there for me?
Oh, you bet there's a part in there for you. Please.
That's who we like.
He could be the Protestant priest.
There's no priest.
Or an old Jesus.
An old sexy Jesus? Yeah.
Old sexy Jesus.
He'll put you on the crucifix.
See what's going to happen? You guys keep ringing those bells. I'm going to start kissing both your butts individually. Just trying to get that. Oh, yeah. I'll say anything for just a little, one more hit,
Well, I think you should produce it. Is it going to be a short or
no,
a theater?
It's a feature.
It's a feature. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the budget? You budgeted out?
That's the thing is it's set in the 90s, so there's a ton of money there, and it's action, a lot of explosions, a lot of different location stuff. So it's definitely pricey.
I can contribute to the wardrobe. My wardrobe's full of 90s stuff.
Oh yeah, you got a real rad wardrobe.
90,000 is the budget, or 90s
no.
genre?
Closer. If you put a couple more zeros after that, you might be closer.
900,000.
9 million.
90 million?
I don't. I'm just ballpark.
Holy shit!
Not 90 million. Might be it might 50% is for me on the back end.
So there you go. That's that.
Those are royalties.
Those are royalties, baby.
45,
yeah.
40. Well, you know what? All you got to do really is get like 3 studio pictures out there as a writer. You can retire.
Yeah.
Those residuals will go on forever. So
paying the bills.
3 studio picks, and you can then play whatever game you want to play.
Yeah.
That's what my buddy was getting after. But listen, this writing thing. Not everybody has the luxury of not, first of all, perceiving the world in such a way that a writer has the option to perceive the world, or that we're sort of required to perceive the world in a way that's almost voyeuristic. Has your perspective of the world changed since you've gotten into this particular field? I
think that it has made me more of an empath, more empathetic to people, because it kind of forces you to, not only imagine, yourself in these situations and how you'd respond, but how all different kinds of people would feel and respond to certain situations. Right. At least that's the way I try to do it. And so I feel like, I don't understand a lot of things at all. I'm kind of a dumb like that. But I find myself, I try to. I work harder to, see things the way other people would see them.
So I guess...
that's big. That's very open-minded of you.
Yeah, well, that's what writers are. They have to be. Otherwise, if a writer gets stuck in an idea, that's his death sentence. I mean, he's setting himself up for writer's block.
It's a death sentence for anyone.
Oh, yeah.
He's setting stuck. Well, what happens is you're writing, right? And all of a sudden you get to a point, and if you're... Writing is not moral. What happens is certain things present themselves in the creation of it, and you're like, if you had a second thought, you wouldn't even be allowed to go there. But because the script has presented itself with a possibility of having to go there, you either go there quickly or everything stops. Like the brakes go on, and then now you're sitting here questioning yourselves and bouncing back and forth. So a writer is asked to
go where human has gone before.
But also be free to go north. Here's another little Buddhist principle: free to go north, east, south, or west. He can't be leaning too far one way, because then he won't be able to see what's actually coming up behind him. So it's interesting, the vision, how it's helped me see the world with fresh pair of eyes, and to trust my instincts, especially as I'm writing an initial draft.
Right. You can't chase the story almost. Once, you have that, tiger by the tail or whatever, you just got to go.
Right. And that's what's kind of fun, right? You find that like rewarding. Like, I'm just following my impulses, and it's
thinking things you're like, well, where did that come from?
Right.
Who cares? Just go.
Go, please.
Right. Go.
Before
Did you study writing in school?
Yeah. I took a fair amount of, I was a creative writing minor. Much to my father's chagrin,
What are you going to do? Content management is one of the biggest careers nowadays. That writers are in demand.
Right. Well, not enough in demand in my case. But I just took a lot of classes, and I found that it was something that, I sort of had a knack for. And I found, more importantly, it was something that I genuinely enjoyed doing.
Nice.
It doesn't, because when it's going, it's like nothing else. When the words are just flying, there's pages, flying throughout the room. You're typing on your keyboard, hitting. It's just like,
that's
you're moving.
That's how I started, but I couldn't wait till a computer came because of spell check.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. But
I missed the typewriter.
Yeah, but it was just, I studied all these classes, and, luckily they showed me that, I had genuine love for it.
Right.
Which I think is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're not always getting paid.
Yeah.
But what happens is maybe you already do it. But for me, what happens is a story will present itself, a theme, an understanding of something, and all of a sudden the mind automatically goes into that structure that I've gone back to 1,000 times, and a whole piece can present itself within a concept, and the mind assembles it structurally. And also, it's like, holy crap, that's awesome.
Yeah, there it is.
All I got to do is discipline myself now and sit down for 10, 15 days straight and get it out. But that's, and then wake up and realize I lost my job, don't have a job, bills aren't paid, whatever. But there's that total immersion that I really love.
Mm-hmm, the singular focus.
Yeah, and because it's like you leave this world, and you go into the other world without boundaries and limitations, and you let it do its thing. And that's, to me, I find a tremendous amount of joy with that. And I hope you maintain that joy like I've maintained it for such a long time. What other challenges are you having?
Oh, well, there are many. In terms of writing,
in terms of life here in LA. So listen. So we've got an audience that's probably interested. Like a lot of people around this globe are thinking to come to LA, and you're not. I guess you came here as an actor. If you're doing stand up, that's the road into very successful opportunities. If you manage to figure out how to act, and even if you don't figure out how to act, if you're successful stand up, then people just throw you in their films.
You're a risk taker. That's what we're talking.
Thank you. Oh,
yeah.
How nice of you to say. So you were asking about the challenges?
Yeah.
I mean, the challenges I'm facing out here are, in terms of, at least in stand-up, it's, there's so many people out here doing stand-up, and they're all seem to be so talented and working just as hard as you are.
Yeah.
And so it's like the thing, it's, if you're not doing it, you're thinking about some kid who's better than you, who's doing it more.
Now, is that really beneficial to your well-being?
No, but it's absolutely not. But
say you're a little distracted.
Yeah, it's very, but it's motivating in a sense.
That's good.
You hear about the kid down the street who can play ball better than you. You want to go.
The competition, the competitive aspect of just being like, okay, if he can do it, then that gives me the chutzpah to know that I can probably do it better than him. Right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll stay patient because it's a layering effect.
Oh yeah.
And so what happens is you'll start to. It's not so much refining comedy as it is refining yourself. And the great comedians have a wonderful insight into who they are as human beings, which gives them the pair of eyes to see the world through a unique pair of eyes. And typically the great ones bring that uniqueness, that unique perspective that nobody can copy to the stage, and they manage to walk that line to create the comedy.
Yeah.
And navigate what's become a very minefield-filled endeavor, because you step on the wrong toe with the wrong audience, and all of a sudden you're ostracized from the United States.
Sure, I was just talking about that, and a lot of people say you can't be funny anymore. You can't, but I don't think it's that. I think that it's certainly more challenging. Because you can't. A lot of you used to be able to get away a lot with kind of just punching down.
Right.
Just making fun of whoever, whatever, and that's
derogatory stance.
Exactly, derogatory stance. The low hanging fruit, and
making fun of handicapped people in the audience. And
yeah, just going after whoever with reckless abandon.
I think it's almost like stating the things people think but don't feel they have permission to say out loud, so people laugh because they can relate to that. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's the shock value of it all.
Yeah.
And just because you can't get away with that anymore, and that's not even necessarily true. You can get away with a lot as long as it's genuinely funny.
Yeah.
But that's the hard thing,
Have you ever thought about wearing just Google glasses and then having a cam on you and just?
Oh God, nobody wants to see that. That's another nobody.
Just to see how many people you can make laugh during the day, that'd be a great service to most people.
Just the 24/7 comic. My girlfriend's currently dealing with that, and it's very distressing to her.
You're constantly saying it's a joke, honey. It's a joke.
Get over. You remember Dana? Yeah, you met her on set, the makeup artist.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
She's having an emotional moment, and you're making it into a satire.
Yeah, I'm just farting with my armpit.
Get over yourself, babe.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Living with a comedian. That's right up there with.
Do you have banning on no personal relationship is your material for the stage, or does she have to sign a disclaimer being in a relationship with you?
Well, the lawyers may have to get involved at some point, but no, she's a good. She's genuinely funnier than I am. So she gives me a lot of material. So that's where the lawyers might come in one day.
She's gonna want her rights,
right? But. She's very good at, just helping me again, she's good to bounce stuff off of, and give me feedback, give me immediate feedback, stuff like that.
Are you doing the open mic nights? Is that what you're doing?
Oh yeah.
Where are you doing them?
The best thing about LA stand up wise is there is mics everywhere, man. I mean, you play your cards right, you can hit 3-4 in a night.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
It's like busking on the street.
Are you improvisationally going after? Are you going in with prepared material? Are you going in trying to build a set? Is that what your goal is right now?
So yeah, my goal, now that I'm about a year in. So a year in of doing it every night, and
wow, a year of doing it every single night.
Most nights.
This is one of his gigs right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
he's here. He's doing his stuff.
Right.
I try to get up.
Let's have a little stand up right now.
No, you don't.
No, it already started.
Yeah. I've been running jokes on you guys. You guys have no idea. I've been running running through my hour this whole time.
I love it.
But yeah, there's no shortage of places to get up around here, and that's the coolest part.
Well, where can we find you? Where do you go? Hang out?
Where do they laugh at you most?
I go
where do they laugh
there's
at you
this beautiful place. It's called the Fourth Wall, over in North Hollywood. And what they do something really cool. So it's a performance space, right? And what they do is they run a mic every hour.
Oh.
So you have X amount of comics. So you have 8 comics in an hour. They sign up. So you have, when you're going up, and then you have 7 semi-attentive audience members.
How many minutes they give? Oh,
you get 5.
That's
5
it's
5. The 3 you see 3, you see 5, you see 7. Those are generally the 3 big times you get. So I go to that place a lot. That place is a great place to just run through stuff. If you're thinking about, going to mics, definitely check that place out.
Right.
Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank.
Flappers.
That's a great place to be. They're very
Flappers.
Yeah, they're very supportive. They're very good at trying to find new people and use their club as like an incubator to help them get better, so they can eventually go out and do more. And then of course there's open mic nights like the Comedy Store, and the Laugh Factory, but those places are terrifying.
Yeah. Do they make it accessible to get in there?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, no, they make it. They're very cool about.
I've worked with a number of comedians. I mean, that's pretty much part of the training is getting up there and getting in there and getting used to it.
How many times have you gone there?
I go there. So I
gotta like step it up a notch. I'm hearing.
They have an open mic night every Monday.
Okay.
And I try to get to that. Just I work late.
Yeah.
So my schedule doesn't always line up, but I get there as much as I can.
Okay.
And being in there is like, it's where everybody was. That's where Carlin was. That's where Canison was. That's where Seinfeld was when he came out here. That's where, Chappelle, Chris Rock, all these just absolute killers are standing there. They stood where you stood.
Yep.
Awesome. And so it's humbling. It's like, who am I? Like, what am I doing here?
Well, that's funny in itself. So you can build a whole set around that. So how many minutes do you got? What's the goal? You're going to put together an hour and then do an HBO special?
So yeah, I mean, one day, everybody does is, you work, and you build an hour of just, tight killer, bulletproof stuff.
That's like an ab workout.
Right. And you build
maybe you just sell an ab workout through laughter.
Yeah. Hey,
whole new approach.
Yeah. P90X something. Now there's a joke
sell
in
it
there
to
probably.
the hospitals. That'll raise everyone's joy score.
There you go. Yeah. Making everybody laugh.
When you're up there on the stage, are you discovering new material? And when you discover the new material, you're writing it down, or are you just staying pretty much to the book?
No, I like to go up there with at least an idea of what I'm doing, of like, because I write during the day, and then I'll go out there, I'll see what works, I'll record all my stuff, I'll see what works, and then after that I'll cut what doesn't and try to take other bits that I know work and like Frankenstein them into like a solid 5 to 10 minutes.
So you're doing your material, or are you doing the audience?
It depends on the venue, honestly. I like more than 90% of the time I'm doing my material. And doing it in different rooms, because every room's different.
Right.
Every audience is different. So what you want to do, the goal is to have, this set that any room you walk into in America will kill.
Yeah.
I'll tell you Beautiful. What, if you want to kill it, do your audience.
Oh, you
want to kill it, do your audience.
But that's the thing is that every you have to you have to be able to adapt to different audiences. So at the same time, so once you have this material that works, Once you have it set, then you can do it. Then I find you can do the audience. Then you can.
Then your
then you
attention
can.
Shifts,
right. Then you can. You know.
That's your evolution. You
yeah.
get to
They
get
didn't
the
laugh
material.
at that. Then they didn't laugh at that. I can cut that in my head as I'm going and Frankenstein in this bit that I know is going to work.
So ballsy. Comedians are so ballsy.
Risk takers, big time risk takers. We were saying before you came tonight that I think that's even more risk taking than acting, because you're like, people are there and they want to have that outcome, and if you don't succeed, it's like
you feel like you're ruining their night.
Well,
right?
but you're really like, I think it's admirable to get up there and try to like.
Well, it is acting at its best. So when all the people that he mentioned are Chappelle's actually an extraordinarily good actor, and he's always been a really extraordinarily good actor. And the elements that go into making him a great dramatic actor now are exactly the same elements that made him a great comedian.
Right.
His accessibility, his ability to exist in his own space and in his own world, and think on his feet, big time.
Yeah.
Which gives him this, which gave him the ability to turn down a $100 million contract and walk away from it. That's how confident he was in what he was doing. And how about his comeback?
Yeah, I mean, you saw A Star Is Born, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was an incredible performance, you know, because it was. I love how, you know, they never really said, you know, he was basically, that speech he gave was just his life. You know, that little monologue he gave to Bradley Cooper's character, and he's talking about, you know, the ships in the night, stuff like that. You know, just knowing, you know, Dave Chappelle's whole story, because like you said, the dude walked away from $100 million.
I love it on principle.
He walked away from,
on principle.
I think it was Les Moonves that they were trying to tell him how to do his show. And he was like, "You're telling me how to do a show? I'll tell you how to do a show." "No, I'm telling you how to do a show." "Yeah, I'm out of here. Now you don't have a show."
Yeah.
And it could have been, and he kicks himself in the butt now for walking away from $100 million. He's like, "What the hell was I thinking? Take the money."
I don't think so. I think that would have always, at some point it was going to erupt.
Right,
you know, once you're already having that contention on it.
Once you say yes once, it's, you know.
Well, it was like 15 years later. They let him come back.
Yeah.
But so, wow. So we covered your writing. We covered your stand-up. We got Will. What have we learned about Will that nobody knows?
You have a passion for sports and adventure and on the LA streets.
No,
explain this LA street thing.
So I mean, LA street, it's, you know, it's just going out because I've been, you know, thinking about LA since as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
You know, what it was going to be like, what I was going to do when I was out here. And so now that I'm here, I'm like, holy this is it. You know, this is where they make the movies, you know, that I watch my whole life.
And now you recognize.
And now I'm
spots.
like, oh my God, that, you know, that I'm like, holy crap, you know, that's The Long Goodbye, like right there, you know.
Yeah.
So I just try my hardest, because I'm like, you know, 7-year-old you would be like, go walk around, you idiot. What are you doing watching TV? Those are the movies are, you know, go hang out. And so I try to, you know, just every once in a while, you know, when I'm stressed and then I'm late for work and I'm in traffic, you know, I'm freaking out. You got to remind yourselves that, like, you're here, you know, holy crap.
Yeah.
You know,
enjoy your surroundings.
Right. Enjoy it for like 1 sec and then go back to freaking out.
Yeah.
But
how do you bring yourself out of the freak out?
It's like, I'm just like, I like to imagine like a year ago, you know, I'm in college, I'm wondering what the heck I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And how thrilled a year ago me would be to know that I'm out here trying.
Yeah.
You know, because he would be very excited. And
pinching
he never
yourself,
thought he'd do it. Yeah.
Like, wow, you're really here.
Yeah. So I just like to, you know, bring myself back to, you know, you're not nailing it, but you're trying.
What about you that nobody knows? What can you share? What don't we know about you that is a secret?
Your
that
deepest, darkest secret.
That you would never say, but you need to say.
You know, you guys, this'll tickle some of my buddies back home listening. I recently have been dragged kicking and screaming into the world of musical theater. I tell you, are you
gonna sing us a show tune?
You don't want to. That might cause some lawsuits from all the bleeding ears.
You might get a few more bells.
No, you guys will throw the bells at me, trying to shut me up, kill them with fire. You don't want to hear that. But I'm telling you, my girlfriend I mentioned earlier, she, you know, giant, you know, musical theater
wonderful
background.
makeup artist, by the way. I was going to call her in. We have a project the 15th and the 16th. I need somebody.
Well, she's listening, so listen
girl,
up, Mac.
Hey, Dana, you're good. You're good stuff. And We even have some money in it for you. So.
Oh boy! But yeah, she dragged me kicking, and some just musical theater. We were listening like Wicked and stuff like that, and just something about rapidly being able to, from a storytelling standpoint, it's incredible because it's rapidly being able to hurl backstory and all this pertinent information at the audience in a way that they don't even realize that they're having it all thrown at them because it's being told in such a catchy, beautiful way.
So you have an appreciation for musical theater?
Yeah, man. I love it.
Oh, my God. You're horrible.
Doesn't it make you want to walk around the house and sing?
Yes. Oh, my God,
and sing things? I would do that to my kids when they were young.
Didn't you like the film Chicago? Didn't you like any of these great musicals?
I never watched them.
Moulin Rouge?
Never.
Oh, my God. That's an awesome
Now you might.
Now I do. Now I've been, La La Land was my first little foray into it, but that's less of a musical.
No, very, 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 very beautifully done. Stars Born certainly brings those elements in a very dramatic fashion, but the amount of energy that's focused and the amount of bodies that go into generating that energy in the frame is it's stunning.
It's incredible.
The choreography, the ability to get everybody that practiced and to capture it in the frame and trying to figure out what to capture with all of that action going on in front of you. Amazing accomplishment.
Because there's so much going on. I mean,
maybe you should make the Irish Vacation a musical. The corpse could sit up and sing to everyone.
Just blood. Oh, God.
It's eulogy. It's like, dude, you got it all wrong.
Oh, no, you've just given me a great now. Just go home and just rip the script in half. Like, well, time to start over.
Hey, nobody told you you're supposed to write that first script and throw it away? That's what you're supposed to do.
The last version and the first draft are just not the same movie. The bare bones are still there in terms of the two brothers, dead third brother. That's still there, but everything else is dead.
You wouldn't want to get rid of the dead one.
No,
especially
that's
it's better on a funeral.
Right.
Well, look, we got a couple minutes left. I mean, what jokes would you like to tell us while you're here?
Oh God, you guys don't want to hear my jokes. My jokes.
Well, the joke you just did tell a joke. The joke was you like musical theater now. That's fucking hilarious. So what other joke from your life that's true that can you tell us?
Or about LA now that you've been here a year.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, it's everybody out here is just so hot. It's crazy to me being out here. Everybody's beautiful.
Isn't that crazy?
It is nuts. I work in an office, just a normal office setting, and it's like, what in the world? What are you guys eating? I'm back in Ohio, I was okay, nothing to write home about, but but out here, I'm just like, damn. All right. My Uber driver's 13 times hotter than me. I'm like, good grief. Well, I should be driving you, man. You want to hop back here? It's incredible.
Well, it's the land of wanting to be recognized, so you have to step it up a notch.
So you know what? As any good comedian knows, we end that on a laugh.
There we go.
That was friggin' funny. That's funny. That's Will Sennett, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
That's
Thank you.
Will Sennett in the house.
2 N's and 2 T's.
2 N's, 2 T's.
Writer, comedian, and like I'm encouraging him to do, learn how to direct. So this young man is here, and he's kicking butt. And we can see him at which places?
The Laugh Factory, the Fourth Wall in North Hollywood, and the Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank.
I have to. You cannot see me. I'm not good enough to be at the Laugh Factory.
You're going to be there. That's why I said you need to
see me at the Laugh Factory.
You will see him at the Laugh Factory.
Well, hopefully.
So what nights are you at the Flappers?
Those are decided weekly. I'm not up there this week, but I got more shows coming up. Follow me on Instagram, Will_Sennett. I have my shows all up on there.
Will_Sennett. Follow this gentleman. Give him support. Give him some love because God knows in LA you need it from time to time. You need a good hug. Will Sennett, play that last video there, buddy.